Ipswich's worst night in the Championship for many a year. This won't be much fun, but it might be cathartic. This is Blue Tuesday. Come on, join us for the next 20 minutes, Seb, while we dissect Ipswich Town 0, Charlton Athletic 3 on Blue Monday, this live reaction show. Seb, quite often I join you on these shows and we're feeling a little, well, we've had FOMO, we've missed out on watching our club play under the lights and missed an exciting evening. Tonight wasn't one of those nights, was it?
No, definitely not. I mean, Rich, I've got a WhatsApp group with some mates, and Rich put a message in there about halfway through the second half saying, is this McKenna's worst home defeat in the league? Obviously, people will refer to Maidstone and think of that one, but yeah, tonight is definitely up there. You know, you can accept it against the Premier League greats of the likes of Erling Haaland and Kevin De Bruyne, and that's one thing, but tonight was really, really poor and concerning. And yeah, for once, I'm quite happy that I haven't got a 4.5 hour drive, whatever it is, back from Suffolk. I can do this with you, and then I can just call it a night and then see how the land lies tomorrow. So a really disappointing evening, a really frustrating evening, and a really concerning evening as well in a lot of areas, if we're being honest.
Yes, and the fact that it's followed another concerning evening up at Middlesbrough, this one does sting, doesn't it? Because I think one of the only positives that we could take from Middlesbrough was looking ahead. Oh, we've got Charlton coming up on Tuesday night. Charlton obviously have had a good start to the season, but you think there's a good chance right there for us to bounce back at the earliest possible opportunity.
And that was the narrative, wasn't it? You know, Middlesbrough, you could argue, was a game of fine margins and chaos. Like we said, if we score the penalty, it's a completely different game. But you look forward to Charlton and West Brom, you think, we haven't got ourselves going away from home. We've got 2 home games. Yes, Charlton are above us in the league, but they are a side that was, you know, in League One last season. They're a newly promoted side. You'd like to think they're experiencing a bit of a bounce, and that will fade. So you've got to be looking at those kind of games to pick up those 3 points like we did effortlessly back in 2023, 2024. You know, how many times did we sit here after a Hull 3-0, Bristol City 3-2, Southampton, etc.? You know, so many times at home in those games under the lights, we were so good. And yeah, suddenly the week is, well, there's now an awful lot of pressure on the West Brom game on Saturday, because a 3-point week, 3 points from a 3-game week isn't really acceptable. 6 points, you kind of look at the Borough game and you go, okay, you've still taken 2 points per game across the week. We park it and we move on. We went to a promotion rival under the lights on Sky and came out the wrong side of things. But there's a lot of pressure now going into that West Brom game. I mean, we'll discuss the lineup tonight. We'll discuss what we might do in terms of a lineup for West Brom on pre-match with me and Rich on Thursday. But that game now has some real pressure behind it. And yeah, I'm getting worried that we are simply leaving ourselves too much work to do. We've kind of seen this story before a little bit in, you know, I know it's a long time ago, but 2002, 2003, an excellent squad, a really slow start, and we were just playing catch up for the whole season. And I worry we're giving ourselves a bit of a mountain to climb.
Yeah, that could be a parallel that we bring up more and more as the season goes on. I think most of us expected, for one reason or another, to see quite a few changes tonight, Seb. Don't think many of us were expecting this number, though. Seb,
very, very good.
I mean, who am I to question Kieran McKenna? But 7 changes when you don't have to make 7 changes, that's too many, isn't it? And that's not just in hindsight. Like, 7 changes is not ideal.
Well, we sat here 3-4 weeks ago, was it, after Bristol City? We'd made 6 changes that night, and we kind of put the lack of familiarity, the lack of patterns of play, and those covalent bonds which we're desperate to build. We kind of put it down to that number of changes. And me and Rich did a Charlton kind of pre-match for top tier, and we kind of said maybe 3 or 4 changes. One you have to do with Matasiwa being suspended. We kind of thought Greaves would come back in. We thought Azon would get a start. But apart from that, I don't think there was too much debate. I was shocked when I saw the team team at 7:45, and I was shocked when I saw, at 6:30, and I was shocked when I saw that he changed the entire front four. That's an awful lot of kind of not firepower, because they're not really scoring, but it's an awful lot of new players that you're asking to go in there and look to suddenly hit the ground running when we're struggling to build those relationships all over the pitch. So 7 was a complete shock. I thought 3, 4, maybe you could argue if you want to bring Ashley Young in at right back, but 7 was, absolutely. I won't question Kieran McKenna on an awful lot of things because of what he's done for the club, but I would question the sanity of bringing 7 changes after that Middlesbrough game. And I presume we'll now see it flip back to make a load more changes on Saturday against West Brom. So how are you possibly going to build these relationships and these patterns of play if you are changing, half the team every match day?
So this was the team. It was Alex Palmer in goal. So there's a change there, Seb, at the weekend coming up. Tick probably. Ashley Young came in, as a few people thought he might, for Darnell Furlong. Darragh O'Shea was partnered by Jacob Greaves, who returned. Leif Davis kept his place at left back. Then it was Nunes replacing the suspended Matasiwa alongside Kiyusti. McAteer returns out of the blue on the right. Chuba Akpom played in behind Athon in the number 10 position. And Jack Clark came in for Jaden Philogene, who didn't play well at Middlesbrough. And to be fair, Jack Clark, he's looked bright recently, and he's scored a lot of goals this season already. So you can kind of understand that one, but just maybe as an accumulation, just too many. And then you look at the Charlton team, Seb, and this is a team that struggled to get in the playoffs in League One last year, and then did really well. They did well to get to the final in quite dramatic circumstances, and then beat Leyton Orient at Wembley, but then lost 2 of their best attacking players. And credit to Charlton, they've done a brilliant job on us tonight, but there's not a huge amount of quality in that starting 11, is there?
I think you could argue their best player probably was on the bench. Tyrese Campbell is a threat, as we saw for the 3rd goal. He's arguably he's quick, he can play wide, he can play through the middle, he's direct, he's pacey, he's got a skill in him. So you could argue that, one of their better players didn't even make the starting 11. And I think the frustrating thing is that every Town fan pretty much knew how this game was going to go. If you look at all the data regarding Charlton and what they do, they're going to play a back 5, they're going to frustrate, they're going to look to spoil, and they're going to hit sides on the counter. So, either you look to score early and kind of put that to bed, or you have to just kind of, ensure that at least defensively you are incredibly solid to retain possession and keep going wave after wave in the hope that you can break them down. But what we saw defensively, especially in that, or arguably in both halves, to be fair, but especially in that second half, was just nowhere near the level and nowhere near good enough. You look at those 2 lineups on paper, the 2 graphics you just put on the screen there. In theory, our side should beat Charlton 9 times out of 10, shouldn't they? You look at the quality of some of the names there, and you can't compare the 2. But, I saw things tonight from Charlton that I saw in us in 23-24 in terms of leadership and desire and spirit, and players throwing themselves in front of shots and stuff. And I have to say that was really lacking from us tonight.
Yeah, and you mentioned the need for an early goal. We very nearly found it in the 7th minute. Athon had a shot blocked, but was recycled well by Akpom, who started pretty brightly. He slipped in Nunes. His shot is deflected, and Athon slides in, and you think he just needs to get on the end of this, and it will be 1-0. But Kaminsky, to be fair, recovers really well and makes a save. McAteer blasts a shot over in the 12th minute. Jack Clark bursts into life in the 15th minute, wins a corner, which he nearly scores directly from, whips it in, it's cleared off the line, comes out to him, he takes on his man, puts in a dangerous cross, which is turned behind. A nice move from back to front on 18. Young tries to slip in McAteer, but he miscontrols badly. And was probably quite relieved to see the offside flag go up. Athon and Palmer then go down. Athon feeling his knee. I wonder whether Palmer was potentially going down because to try and break things up, because we've got a player that's gone down. But actually, it turned out that it was the goalkeeper with the worst injury. So
Yeah, I assumed he'd gone down to buy Az on a bit of time to get treated and get looked at, obviously. But it looked really innocuous, didn't it? He just played a simple kind of pass into Greaves. He came racing out of his area, picked up the ball, played a simple pass, went down straight away. So is it his calf? Do we think he's popped his calf? And yeah, I saw him take his glove off, and I thought, well, that's strange, because I presumed, Azon would get some treatment, he'd be back up, and then sure enough, Palmer would jump straight back up, and we'd all get on with the game. So when he took his glove off and kind of tried to put a bit of weight on it and run, straight away you could see the discomfort there. And yeah, straight away you've got Walton last. I know he played a few games in the Premier League. He barely he got 10 minutes or whatever it was in the Championship a couple of years ago. So you see him stripping off on the bench and you think, right, well, that's not ideal, because straight away you've lost one of your potential attacking subs later on in the game. So that's frustrating. It was just it was so innocuous, the ball that he played. And if he's done his calf, then he might well be missing for a good few weeks.
Yeah, it's Ipswich looking the more likely to score, though, throughout, up until a point in the first half. More good play from Clark, zips it across to Nunez on the edge of the box. He's picking up good positions on the edge of the box, but his shooting was just way off at this stage. Smashes the ball over the bar. Greaves has a header from close range after a good corner from Clark on that occasion. But then the first warning sign from Charlton, they didn't really show any attacking intent, but then Carey mishits a half volley finish from a Bell cross, and then quick counter from us. Athon flicks the ball over the fullback. Really nice play from him. Rather than shooting, he slides it across to Akpom on the edge of the box. This is probably our best chance of the night. Hits it powerfully towards the goal, smashes off the crossbar. But then Charlton then have a really good opening of their own on 37. Olaf, he rolls Ashley Young. It opens up. Walton comes out and closes the angle and makes a good save. At this stage, it's pretty chaotic. It's quite for neutral watching, probably quite exciting. We have another chance when Kaminski kicks it straight to Nunez, but again, his shooting was poor. And then the best chance of the half falls to Gillespie. Flick on from a corner. Come on, guys. Are we going to start defending set pieces properly? Fires it over the bar. Just before half time, Nunez then does find his range, hits a free kick from 30 yards just over the bar. And I think we go in at half time, Seb, maybe a little bit concerned that we've given up those 2 or 3 really good opportunities for Charlton, despite having all of the ball and most of the pressure.
I think we were lucky to go in at 0-0 personally. The Gillespie one from the corner was a really bad miss, and the one that Sonny Carey kind of, was leaning back and ended up sticking it into the north stand, that was a bad miss as well. It became, as you say, you used the term chaotic. It became a bit like Borough, didn't it? It was kind of, Charlton showed no real appetite to move forward. I think they're bottom of most stats in terms of possession, so they're not a side that is bothered about having the ball. And then suddenly, we kind of either got sucked in or we were overplaying at times, and they started to hit us on the break, and it became very end-to-end. The Chuba Akpom chance that hits the bar comes just after one of their efforts. And then those 2 chances, if one of those, if they'd have gone in 2-0 up at half-time, I don't think you could have really had too much to argue, because that Gillespie one was a really bad miss, and you could argue the Sonny Carey one was as well. So I know Nunez kind of hit the top of the net with that free kick right on half time, so maybe it makes things look a little bit better. But I was worried at that stage about how poor our defending was on those 2 occasions, because Sonny Carey was in space and thankfully leant backwards and blazed it into the north stand. And Gillespie's just a set piece. People not doing their jobs on set pieces. We've bemoaned in the Premier League how crap our set pieces were from an attacking point of view and defensive point of view, and they don't show any real signs of improving so far this season. We've given a couple of cheap goals away from corners, and we were lucky there to get away with another one.
Yeah, absolutely. But then you think the only way is up, Seb. And then we go into the second half, don't we? No changes at half time. Jack Clark, the pick of our players in the first half, has a clever effort with the outside of his right foot, which I don't know if it sort of deflects. I don't know if Kaminski gets a touch or whether it hits the post there. Then from the resulting corner, it's played out wide to Clark. Curls in absolute beauty of a cross. Akpom gets up but can't find the target. And then we find ourselves behind, Seb. 1-0 to Charlton. And you think, this wasn't in the script.
But we've seen this movie before, haven't we? Unfortunately, so many times, kind of not so much under McKenna, but under previous managers where we've not been able to break sides down and they kind of hit you on the break 1-0 and you know what's going to happen. It's so poor from O'Shea. It's really, really poor in every kind of phase of the play. The header clear is a weak one. It drops straight to Sonny Carey and then he just backs off him. He just lets him run the kind of almost the length of the half into the box and then kind of he fires low underneath Walton. And yeah, you know, from what was he, 15 million quid, our star centre-back, new 5-year contract in the summer, captain. That was such poor defending from him. And that was when I started to get really concerned regarding leadership and, you know, desire, because after that, we kind of just went to complete pieces, didn't we? You know, the mental kind of fragility shone through because every time Charlton came forward, they looked threatening. And even simple things, we were trying to pass out from the back and, you know, we were either passing it into a Charlton player's feet or putting it wide. And yeah, it was awful defending, and that became a running theme for the next 2 goals and the rest of the half, didn't it?
It did. 1-0 quickly becomes 2-0. Swift counter attack from Charlton. Kelman cuts in, hits a rasping shot, which is turned wide by Walton. We clear the corner, but Charlton quickly recycle it, and they're 2-0 up.
Yeah, ball played in low down our left, there right, wasn't it? And Walton kind of goes to ground with the Charlton player, and it kind of flicks up. They get a bit of luck the way it flicks up, and you know Gillespie is there to just nod it into the empty net. But more really poor defending.
How's he finding that much space in the area?
Well, that's the concern, isn't it?
When he found that space in the area in the first half as well.
That's the concern, isn't it?
Zonal, you know, not marking.
Yeah, defensively from set pieces in the first half, we let Gillespie kind of blaze one over the bar. Thankfully, he's completely unmarked. Second phase of play from a set piece, they recycle and fire a low ball. And again, we're just either ball watching or not switching on or static. We defend kind of zonally, don't we? So you could argue that the man-to-man marking maybe takes that out of the equation. But everyone's just stood looking at each other, and you know it's an absolute gift for Gillespie. Headers it into the net, and at that point, you're thinking, right, well. They've come with no real desire to press forward. They've hit us twice, you could argue, on the counter, certainly the first one on the counter, and now they are going to shut up shop, and it's going to be a horrible last half an hour. We will have to huff and puff, but in reality, what we'd seen in that first, whether it was 55, 60 minutes, there was just not enough quality on that pitch to break them down. And yeah, you kind of had a bit of a feeling it was going to get worse before it get better, exactly how it turned out to be.
Casey McAteer rather summed up our performance tonight with his showing. But after that second goal and, well, in between the second goal and being subbed off, he actually was involved in two of our best moments. On 57, he cuts a really good ball. It's a nice move from us. Cuts a really nice ball across to Athon. And again, gets the shot in. Looks like we're going to score. Hits a Charlton player potentially on the arm. It's not a penalty that though, Seb, in the Championship, is it? But we do find the net from resulting set piece. Any idea what's happened here, Seb? Because the replay that I saw might as well have been CCTV.
Yeah, I can't make out on the replay. McAteer's given offside. Does he have to touch it? It looks like the effort from Leif Davis is going in. I don't know.
Okay, fair curling enough. Away from goal.
Okay, on my view, I was wondering why he nodded it in. It looked like the effort from Davis was going in. That kind of summed the night up, doesn't it? You know, the one kind of chance you get from one of our set pieces, Davis kind of hits it into the ground to loop it back up and over the Charlton keeper and the defenders, and then McAteer. It looked semi-offside from the pretty grainy, pretty crappy replay that I've seen. So you have to assume it's the case. Maybe if Rich joins us being at the North Stand end, he'll be able to confirm. But for me, I did think it was going in. So I was more frustrated that McAteer had touched it in the first place. He could have just simply left it, I thought. And then suddenly you're 2-1 and Charlton do concede a lot of late goals. So maybe you're thinking, right, there's something in this for us. But that kind of summed up the performance, didn't it? It was, just a horror show in that second half, let's be honest.
Yeah, it was. Double change comes just after the hour mark. McAteer replaced by Philogene. Hurst comes on for Athon, who was fairly lively, to be fair, Seb, but just lacking that finishing touch at the moment.
Yeah, you got that one where he slid in the first half, the one you just mentioned where he gets the shot off and it kind of hits the defender on the arm and goes past the post. I do like him. I like the way he kind of puts himself about. He's not afraid to, get stuck in with the physical side of the game. So I thought he looked okay, but, you need him to get that goal. He's hit the woodwork twice now at the North Stand end, hasn't he? So he really does need a goal to get himself up and running, but I thought he looked okay. But Jack Clark, I thought was the pick of our players tonight, but even he's probably no more than a 6. So for Azon, you're talking, maybe a 5 or so. It was they were probably the 2 brighter spots of the rest of the 11.
Oh God, Seb, talk us through goal number 3.
It's a cleverly disguised ball from, it's Coventry, I think, isn't it? Was it Doherty? I think it's Coventry, plays it down to Tyrese Campbell. The ball, at the time, I sort of shouted, that's out of play. I thought the ball had gone out of play, but that's no excuse again for the piss poor defending. Miles Leeburn, son of Carl Leeburn, to make everyone feel a little bit old, gets up, heads into the net, and yeah, again, we just switch off. It's far too easy. The way they're able just to, run that ball. I know it's a decent disguised ball into Campbell, but the way you can just run to the byline, get the cross in, and then it's so straightforward. And defensively, we are an absolute horror show, and it's just not good enough at the back. You've got 35 million quid's worth of centre halves starting this game. You've got Ashley Young, who's incredibly experienced, obviously played an awful lot of games for England and big games for the likes of Man United and Villa and stuff. And they all just kind of completely switch off. And yeah, they weren't really helped. The lack of Matasiwa, I guess, tonight, if he's in the side, then potentially those breakaway goals, especially the first one, doesn't really happen. But defensively, an absolute horror show. And it summed up the half, didn't it? O'Shea and Greaves have had really, really bad performances tonight, and the third goal just kind of summed it up. It was so easy for Charlton to score against us. They didn't have to work hard for any of their goals. Our poor defending is the reason they've won 3-0 tonight, I would suggest. If someone beats you from 30 yards, you hold your hands up and say, fair play. That's an absolute epic goal. But the 3 goals they scored was a crap header, and then us backing off, us not dealing with a recycled kind of ball in from a set piece, and then a guy simply not marking a guy in the area. And then, the third one, you could argue you're a bit unlucky. The ball looks like it's gone out of play, and the Premier League VAR might intervene on that one. But again, you place the whistle. You've got to be more alert. You've got to pick up the man in the box and clear your lines. And yeah, an absolute horror show tonight for O'Shea and Greaves.
Now, we're 22 minutes into this podcast. Either Rich has left early or he's shown a real turn of pace to get home, because Rich Woodward joins us now, fresh from...
Not fresh at all, very sweaty, actually.
Fresh, sweaty. Did he leave early, Rich? Or
only 4 minutes early, but I parked the car halfway because I had a sense of foreboding a little bit, but I'm kind of glad I did. I mean, you guys I've joined, as you're talking about, defensive aberrations. Like most of Charlton's attacks in the second half, there's no defending that performance. That was up there with probably the worst I've seen under McKenna at Portman Road. I'm going to put it out there. The Premier League doesn't really count. I think you get a pass for that. But yeah, total change in the second half. I mean, we need to give credit, I hope you have already, to Charlton and playing with the kind of spirit, intensity that got us our success in the double promotion season, and to see, this supposed Championship All-Stars 11. It's great when our players can take the ball on the half turn. It's great that we can dominate possession, but in both boxes we are poor, and there are so many questions for Kieran McKenna to have to answer, not least about the lineup. I don't know whether you guys have talked about that yet, but if you beat Charlton 3-0, no one talks about that. When you lose 3-0, you have to talk about it. And I thought Jack Clark, my mate Jack Clark, who I've been banging the drum for quite some time, not everyone has seen that, but he's the only player for me that comes out of it with any credit tonight. And yeah, pretty disappointed, to say the least.
Yeah, we have covered those things. Jack Clark did have a good game. I thought it was probably the best we've seen from Chuba Akpom as well. But Jack Clark definitely a standout player. But just the seven changes, it's just far too much. If we win the game, like having made 7 changes, do we then have to keep the same team for Saturday when we've got arguably some of our best players
I mean, this was a Bristol
unavailable.
City team, wasn't it? You know, this was definitely a team with a view to turning up and beating West Brom, or trying to beat West Brom, isn't it? And I mean, I've seen it in the chat already. Like, I can't see how Kipre doesn't come back in on Saturday. Blimey, we miss Matasiwa. We're going to have to talk about our central midfield. That's a problem. I think Akpom, as you say, Mikey did okay, but
he's got to score the header though at 0-0.
He's had two chances where he's put it wide of the post. Like it took us, I think, to the point where Charlton went 3 up. We'd had one shot on target. Like, that is the alarm bells for me. Like, you can have all these really talented individual players that you want, but you just can't. We can't create meaningful. Our keeper's done very little work tonight, and I don't know what I assume that the goal that is disallowed for offside is offside because he's standing on the goal line. I don't think needs to put it in, but we can't fashion meaningful chances when we've got, when it's 0-0. It's the same for kind of Borough, isn't it? Like, we had a few moments, we win a penalty, of course, but there's just no pattern to our play, which is something that we talk about routinely on this podcast. And to your point, Mikey, the more you bring in players and churn it up and change it, I get that we drill our players, regardless of whether they're in the first team or not, on a certain style of play. But it all kind of, to an extent, goes out the window when you're 11v11 on the pitch. And Charlton are turning up to not make it easy. Like, you can't put a Charlton-esque type reserve team against us in the training match, because that's not how we play. So you're going to have to figure this out. And I feel for FPL Tract, who's joined the chat, by the way. You got to put that comment up, Mikey. Blimey, I feel for you. At least the women could keep a clean sheet at the Valley. FPL, at least you had that. But not good, Mikey.
Yeah, not good at all. I'm just going to finish talking through what happens in the rest of the game. First sight for George Hurst came on 72. Nice move, but he miscontrols Clark's cross. And Ramsey gets in and makes a good recovery tackle. Walton then has to make another save to deny Leeburn. Campbell then has a curling effort, flick the post and go wide. It could have been worse than 3-0 tonight. Charlton far more clinical in front of goal than us. Those two efforts pretty much better than anything we mustered. Taylor comes on for Kiusti. Ben Johnson comes on. The Leicester's possible Ben Johnson appears at.
I mentioned him in Telegram, Mikey.
Lee Davis.
More for a right-hand side situation, because Ashley Young's not going to be a starter anytime soon after that performance, sadly. Like, the game was just, there's some really good passes into Adon in particular. At first half, there was a great one, wasn't he? He's got the magic eye, but the game is passing him by, sadly. And Furlong just went AWOL at Riverside. So I was kind of thinking, well, let's just chuck Ben Johnson in, and then suddenly he appears, but comes on for Davis, which I didn't really understand. But keep going. Sorry, Mikey.
Yeah, well, that was pretty much all she wrote. Jacob Greaves got his head on quite a few corners and recycled set pieces tonight.
None on target.
None of them really looked like they were. There was one that the goalkeeper tipped over that was probably going to hit the crossbar.
Yeah.
So yeah, just a really, really bad night at the office. And yeah, you think the worst overall under McKenna, or worst at home?
At home, yeah. I mean, Leeds away. Blimey,
that was
Christmas.
Leeds, wasn't it?
It was Leeds, yeah. And you're right, Mike. Every time I try to qualify or find a game that's worse, it's like, well, that was the Premier League. That's De Bruyne having a worldie, and all that kind of stuff, and Isak having a worldie for Newcastle. Like, you can't legislate for that kind of stuff. Well, you can legislate for it, and it's expected. But I can't. Seb, any memories?
Well, Maidstone was an aberration, but that was a complete statistical fluke, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That was a fluke.
Yeah, Maidstone wasn't even a bad performance.
No,
is it Lincoln we lost to in the Blue Monday Live 20 in the championship?
Cheltenham
was that
as well.
I can't remember. Yeah,
there was a Charlton 1-0, wasn't there? But
that wasn't like this, because that was a case of they hit us on the break, scored once, and shut up shop. And we had, again, like Maidstone, we had 20, 30 shots. I know we had 30 shots tonight, but I think 3 were on target. So yeah, I think, like you say, you get a pass for the Premier League when it's the likes of De Bruyne and Haaland going at you. You get a bit of a pass for me. But yeah, tonight that was just so poor. And there's now real pressure on the game on Saturday is now really pressured, because the best you'll get now is 3 points from this week, which isn't good enough. West Brom, if they win tomorrow night, can go into the playoffs. So they're another side who are further up in the table than us, coming to visit us. We're on telly again. And yeah, McKenna's got some real pressure on him, and he's going to have to make a load of changes again to kind of, revert some of the poor performances tonight. So you're probably looking at another 5, 6, 7 changes again to arguably go back to the more traditional established starting 11. And, if West Brom score early, or if the result doesn't go how we want it to, it's going to be a horrible day on Saturday. So yeah, a lot of questions tonight and very few answers.
But join us for the live event at full time, though. That would be great.
Yeah, that'll still be fun. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been proven. It's been proven in the past that even after a bad game, a live show can be very enjoyable. But I think it was arguably more enjoyable when we won, wasn't it, Rich?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, especially when Brandon Williams ran from one end to the pitch, the other to score. Yeah, and but no, look, part of it is about community, isn't it? And we'll try and dissect whatever happens. Hopefully, it's positive. But yeah. A sense of foreboding about Saturday as well now, but stranger things have happened. You have to hope, and we've said this consistently across McKenna's reign, particularly that first season in League One, that he learns pretty quickly. I think tonight is a case of some really hard truths needing to be understood. Can we talk about the back line? Because I've got a real problem with Dar O'Shea.
I'm dropping him for Saturday. I
don't think he's the... But who do you bring in, Seb? Like, this is the trouble. I don't think you can afford...
You play Kipre on the right. You're going to have to stick with Greaves on the left because you've got no other options. But then everyone else has departed, so you're going to have to...
I don't trust Greaves. And this is really sad. Like
politics, Rich.
I don't trust him. I just think the two of them as a pair just have... there's no sample size for me in terms of games played together. Again, Premier League, fine. Okay, whatever. But even in the Championship so far this season, this partnership's proven that it I don't know whether it's a psychological thing, a confidence thing, but in terms of the home truths, we have to stop taking so many risks at the back. I know that it's part and parcel of McKenna's game, but teams know it now. And Charlton, this is bread and butter for Charlton. Force the mistakes, make us make mistakes, which is exactly what we started doing. And as soon as we start making mistakes, it compounds with the crowd getting nervous. Understandably, you hope the crowd's a little bit more patient, but let's be honest, we're not been playing well of late. And that gets on the players' backs as well. But I think the biggest issue for me is that both O'Shea and Greaves are really poor at facing down runners. Like the first goal tonight, well taken, fine. But a shocker. It's like, it reminds me of the worst days, when Tommy Smith used to let balls bounce over the top of him or whatever. Like, don't want to bury Tommy Smith unnecessarily there, but every time someone runs at O'Shea, you think we're in trouble here. And I don't know if that's because he's trying to think ahead. Like, if once I won the ball, what's my outlet? What's my pass? He just needs to get in there, like properly there's no intensity to our backline at all. And I assume I'm the opposite end for the goals. Is it second phases? Is it second balls that we're not attacking when the ball drops in the box? Like for the second goal, are we just not alert? Like, I don't know. Our defense.
Yeah, but Gillespie found that space at the end of the first half at the North Stand end that he put over the bar, thankfully, didn't he? And he finds space in the second half. Yeah, he finds space in the second half. The ball is whipped in from the right. It's recycled. I think it's at their corner, isn't it? It's recycled in. Walton goes down with the Charlton player. They get a bit of luck the way it just bounces up in the air, but we don't react to it. And Gillespie's got an empty net to head into. And yeah, he's found the space. We have not reacted to the ball. We're either ball watching or we're marking zonely. No one seems to know what to do. And it's just incredibly poor.
And that's the problem for me at the moment. And this is what I'm talking about, hard truths. I love McKenna, and nothing will make that hopefully change. But there is a point where you have to accept that we are taking far too many risks now, and the defenders need to defend. The trouble is, our centre midfield hasn't got that combativeness, certainly when Matasi was not around. But we're going to have the discussion now. And I hope this is massively reactionary and me being stupidly emotional, having walked out of the North Stand really pissed off. But where is the equivalent of Sam Morsey and Massimo Luongo in that midfield? Like Nunes, Cayusta, classy players. They get us up the pitch. They're great. But when the ball is coming back the other way, and I guess to an extent that's a mitigation for Greaves and O'Shea, but we are not a team that puts in a shift to cover back because we've been set up to attack teams. And I think maybe tonight is a little bit of a reality check in terms of like maybe complacency, maybe hubris. Like we've got 12 million pound players dotted around the pitch. Like Charlton proved you don't need that. And they played as a team tonight. And I just think we just need to revisit some of our choices and simplify things, get things back to basics. It sounds really simple. I don't know what that means, but certainly for me, it doesn't mean dicking about the back. I've just, my patience has run thin with O'Shea and Greaves being able to do that at the moment. So let's take the pressure off them. Let's just bypass it. Let's get it straight to the middle of the pitch if we have to.
Well, we might find that with Walton having, obviously, he will presumably start at the weekend. You might find that is a tactical shift because he prefers to go long. He noticed we went long a few times when he came on in the first half, didn't it? What's worrying me as well, you mentioned Morsey and Luongo. I don't want to harp back to the 23-24 team, but we had leaders all over the pitch, didn't we? We had, Burgess, Luongo, Wolfenden to a degree. Obviously,
Chaplin.
Morsey was the driving force. Connor Chaplin up front. Yeah, exactly. It struck me as being a side where 2-0, everyone was kind of very quiet. Where were the leaders tearing strips of each other? We all remember the famous Paul Cook quote saying that won't happen with Morsey in the team. The third goal tonight probably doesn't happen with Morsey in the team because he takes charge. He's tearing strips off people. He's demanding the ball and he's driving the standards on the pitch. And that worries me that we are very quiet. I'm not sure that's O'Shea's kind of role as a captain. He never strikes me as being overly vocal. I mean, I think the camera and the microphones were a bit off tonight. It sounded very quiet in Portman Road on the Sky feed, and I just couldn't hear anybody from a playing point of view, directing and trying to take charge of a situation on the pitch, and that really worries me because you've gone from 5 or 6 real vocal leaders to virtually nothing, and that's a real concern because that's personality traits, and that's much harder to fix, isn't it?
Yeah, totally agree with you, Seb.
Right, let's hear from our sponsors, and then we can carry this on.
Blue Monday is brought to you in partnership with Atwell Solicitors, your ideal legal partner for property and business law. Whether you're buying a home, starting a business, or just need legal guidance, our dedicated team has got you covered. Trust our award-winning customer service team to handle your legal matters with care and expertise. Find out more at atwells.com or visit us at our offices in Ipswich, Colchester, London, and our new location in Woodbridge.
Right. I'm going to ask for some questions now. We're not going to do an hour tonight. We can't do an hour.
I can go now, Mike. Look at the numbers, Mikey. Let's give the people what they want.
I'm not sure this is what the people want, though.
Just by the way, I'm up at 5 a.m. for work tomorrow. So if you're in the same boat and you're still emotional and trying to process that, I'm here for you. And if you are listening to this on podcast at 5 a.m. this morning as well, I know that I feel your pain and I'm suffering with you on the A14 up to the Midlands. So hello to the morning shift.
Okay, I'm going to bring this one up because I got hammered a little bit in the summer when we re-signed this player because I referred to him as being flawed. And I stand by that, so it's Jens Kiosti. Finch's Rest Cemetery says Kiosti has not shown the player we hoped him to be. Moments of quality compared to 80 minutes of non-entity. It's basically all of the things that we saw from him last season. He's brilliant at what he's good at, but he just doesn't seem to have the defensive nous. And he can't shoot. He's a forward-facing central midfielder who cannot hit the football hard on target, to use the most basic of terms.
He can do a lovely spin, though, Mikey. He can
do a lovely spin.
And everyone goes, ooh.
But it was this. I thought we saw the exact same performance from him tonight as we saw at Middlesbrough, where he started the game really lively and he's moving us through the thirds. And you're like, what a fantastic player he is at this level. And you look man to man, he looks better than his opposite number, but then actually he's not impacting the game in the important areas.
Yeah, fair. Yeah, you're right. And I think actually he tried to do a little bit of the defensive work early on to prove that Friday was kind of an off day. But as the game wore on and Charlton were running at us, suddenly there were people just not there, were they? That should have been. And I think, to your point as well, Mikey, it's really important we've got those attacking sensibilities to try and make stuff happen. Not that there's been a huge amount of key key passes or assists from him. But that, his job is to take us up the pitch. His radar for danger, and there's too many players in this team that don't have that radar for danger. That's a problem. I agree with you, and it's only a problem though if there's too many of the same type of players in that team. And is it a different situation with Matasiwa in there, for example? Maybe, but even Matasiwa struggled on Friday, didn't he?
He did, yeah, but he hasn't had too many bad nights in an Ipswich Town shirt, to be fair. And yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing Matasiwa alongside Nunes, because neither of the partnerships are really working at both. Well, we've seen good performances from Kiyosti alongside Matasiwa, but I think, yeah, maybe we need to try. Maybe now's the time to try something else in the middle, especially as we're trying different things all over the pitch. Now, a question from Trevor Amos for you, Seb. The band of brothers was broken up to bring in Premier League ready players. Is it working?
Clearly not. I mean, I don't think we broke it up to bring in Premier League ready players. I think we broke it into bringing this Championship All-Stars 11, which we kind of accepted last year. We probably got promoted too soon. We saw the players we signed and kind of figured when we knew from January, February time onwards we were getting relegated. We kind of just figured this side will hit the ground running because, they've all done it at this level before. But for whatever reason, we just can't get it going. And I've mentioned it earlier with the leadership issue. I've mentioned it earlier in the podcast with the desire. I saw Charlton players throwing themselves in front of efforts and shots on goal tonight, and we don't have that at the minute. The intangibles, I have no doubt that on a technical level and a data level, this squad is probably way higher than the 23-24 side. It's the intangibles for me. It's the desire, the intensity, the never give up attitude that we kind of became so in love with throughout that promotion running. How many times did we score late goals, late winners, etc., because of the sheer bloody mindedness of our players who just did not know when they were beaten. I saw a great comment, I think it was in Telegram after the Middlesbrough game, saying the 23-24 lot didn't know how to lose. This lot simply don't know how to win. And yeah, we've broken it. We've lost a lot of that familiarity, and I think just one or two would make a big difference right now. Chaplin in the front line and Morsey in the middle of the park would probably make a huge difference in how we're playing, because they would be driving the standards on the pitch, and that's what's really missing and really frustrating.
Even like Burgess as well, Seb. I was walking home thinking like that tonight was a game for Burgess just to cut out the nonsense, like a few crossfield diagonals. Just life was simpler, wasn't it, back in that double promotion season? But you're right. There's also, I think, just a little bit of common sense that appears to be missing, just at times where we're up against it, and that goes back to your leadership point, Seb. And I think all of these start becoming circular points. They all kind of link back to the same thing. And look, I get that the club are ambitious. We need to remember we've got owners pumping in serious money to get us back there, and I get that we might have struggled last season, and that might have been quite a kind of a panic for those behind the scenes. But I guess a few months on, do we regret some of those decisions? Maybe we do. But equally, and this is the annoying thing, and I think this is why I'm quite frustrated and annoyed tonight, is it wouldn't take much, Mikey, for that team to suddenly just go on a run. If we play like we did in the first half and absolutely dominate it, but we go in 1-2-0 up, that game ends 3 or 4-0, and we're not having any of these conversations. It's not like we're being consistently dominated. We are just having far too many brain farts. And hope is that eventually it clicks. But we've been saying that for weeks, and I know there'll be people in the chat or listening going, bloody hell, Rich, we've been saying that for since August and September. Like, when is it gonna click? And I guess to the club's back in the club a little bit, you hope that talented players, quality tells eventually. The question will then be, is it too late to do anything about trying to get back up?
Yeah, well, Stephen Girling's asking... Go on, Seb.
Just really quickly, we seem to be going through this phase, don't we, where you mentioned the term brain fart there. We then seem to completely implode for 10, 15 minutes, don't we? We saw it at Bristol City where we couldn't deal with those long balls down the channel, down the centre of the pitch. We saw it at Borough where the last 50 minutes was absolute chaos. We know that, from previous kind of seasons and stuff that we are at our best, moving the ball quickly and kind of dominating proceedings. But for whatever reason, when we have a rick in us this season, we completely go to pieces for the next 5, 10, 15 minutes. And as we found out tonight with the 2 goals in quick succession, that completely scuppers your chances. It's a real concern that we can't seem to shake off mistakes, get back to playing. We just seem to continually implode. And I guess that's that mental fragility that I mentioned at the start of the pod, perhaps.
So, Rich, Kieran McKenna finally was able to keep an unchanged team after the derby in the international break going into the game at Middlesbrough. And now we've made 7 changes and we seem to be calling for 9 changes going into the next game. So kind of going with Stephen's question here, when will we find our best 11? And I guess a follow-up question from me would be, will we ever use it for a Tuesday night game?
Yeah, it's a great question, Mikey. I don't have an answer, really. I do think, and maybe again, this is the emotion talking, that I think we are showing quite a few teams in this league a total lack of respect at times. Again, like, people hate it when we use the word marginal. Tonight wasn't marginal, but there's kind of tipping points in the game where it just goes against us, and if those don't happen, then maybe it's a 0-0 at the end of it. But I do think there is an element of us needing to show some respect for this league, and we're not really doing that by naming 6 or 7 changes. And the trouble, Mikey, is like, is this 11? There's an 11 on paper that is our most expensive 11, and in theory should be our highest quality players. So let's just keep going with that. But form comes into that, confidence comes into that, understanding the league comes into that. If you're looking at our highest ever championship transfer fee, in theory he should be starting every week, but it's easy. As Seb always says, football's not won on paper, and that's the problem, is that there's so much of our dealings, our transfers, that are just not for right now, but we need form and right now, and that's why maybe I keep going about these hard truths. McKenna needs to name a settled team that's a little bit less flamboyant, a little bit less exciting, but wins 1-0. Keeps a bloody clean sheet, and I know that's not sexy and exciting, but it gets you 3 points, and it also gives you some confidence to then build out from the back, which we're kind of starting by being just so flamboyant and so open at the back without having that defensive. This is what I keep coming back to. Like, without this defensive solidity, we're just asking for trouble.
Chris wants to know, is the pain lessened by Norwich being in the bottom 3? I guess it helps that they're not filling up our comments.
No, but do you know what? It doesn't actually, Mikey, and it's actually worse, because our victories this season have come against teams that are struggling and dysfunctional. Look at Sheffield United, played them at the right time. Portsmouth is probably the only game where maybe we played a team that are half decent. Norwich is crap at the moment. Maybe we've helped nudge them there in the last couple of weeks, but actually I feel worse about that victory now than I did 3 weeks ago, because look at us now. Sorry, Chris. I know you were trying to be positive there. I'm just coming in as a mood hoover 20 minutes in, haven't I?
Seb, how many changes on Saturday? Let's talk through them.
Well, I guess obviously in goal, you've probably got an enforced change. I presume he's done his calf, so therefore he's probably going to be out for a few weeks. So Walton comes in, and then you're going to have the centre-back debate. Is there a world where you play O'Shea, Greaves and Kit Prey, and you have Ben Johnson as a right wing-back and Leif Davis as a left wing-back, and try and really firm it up? I doubt it, but potentially. In midfield, I'd be amazed if Kiyu starts 3 games in a week. I think it'll be Nunez and Matasiwa. In central midfield, Philogene will have to come back in. Even I know it's harsh on Clark being the best player, but you might have to start one of them on the right-hand side. But at home, he's been the star boy so far this season. Akpom looked better tonight. Schmodic runs all day for you. Akpom had those 2 chances, the one they hit the bar and the one they put wide from the header at the corners. Maybe he gets another go. And then you've got the Azon Hurst debate. I thought Hurst had done better with that late chance as well. The one that was passed into him, kind of couldn't get it out of his feet. So
should clatter the keeper for that great ball in by Clark as well, by the way.
Yeah, so I think you are probably looking at another 7 changes. If I just listed there, keeper, Furlong back in, one of the centre halves, one of the midfielders, 2 of the 3 behind the 10, and maybe the striker. Yeah, you're probably looking at another 6-7 changes again.
I'm not dropping Clark.
It's not a great place to be. So but you can't. You've got to play Philogene, haven't you? So would you play one of them on the right, presumably?
Yeah, well, I think Clark actually did okay on the right, finishing the game
he did
off.
look lively on the right. Yeah,
But
Yeah,
I think after that one, if I'm Jack Clark and I've basically played the whole game, I'm the only player that's tried to make things happen in an attacking sense. Really, I've not put a foot wrong. I can't think of a moment. There's a few missed passes here and there, and couldn't get a shot away perhaps. But I think Nunez and Clark for me keep their places in the team. You just got to hope that. I've got no real issue with Christian Walton, but seemingly something went wrong with Palmer out of the team, and you just got to hope that's not a hammy, and it's just like a dead leg or something stupid. He pulled up in a weird way, didn't he? So it doesn't bode well there. But I just think that actually we probably need Palmer in there just for that consistency. Like we keep talking about making changes, but do you want to talk about Palmer and whether that disrupted us, or is that just an excuse? It's clutching a little bit, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't think that doesn't. Palmer going off doesn't result in O'Shea with that poor headed clearance, then letting Sonny Carey run him. It doesn't kind of excuse the lack of picking up your player in the 6-yard box for the two headers for the second and third goals. So no, whilst it's frustrating because obviously we lost a sub, it's not for me. It's not the reason. Obviously we lost tonight, or really a contributing factor.
Walton actually made some saves tonight, which it's been a while.
Yeah, made some half decent saves.
And at
1-0, one of the players had an effort that he kind of pushed around the post as well.
Corner.
Well, yeah.
Procrastinating Womble, is it a mentality thing? If so, is it recruitment issue or gelling?
Go on, Seb.
Well, I mentioned the mentality thing about how we have a brain fart and we just cannot recover for the next 10 to 15 minutes. So that clearly is a bit of mental fragility. And yeah, I mean, I guess they've probably heard that it's a championship All-Stars 11. They're going to have to start behaving like it because we can't. Well, clearly, I think the summer window went a lot kind of bigger than a lot of us were expecting. I think we probably thought that 3, 4, 5 of the double promotion campaign would still be around. McKenna was quite vocal that he wanted Morsey to stay. I think we all kind of assumed that Chaplin would still be around. So I think in terms of gelling the side, we've brought in an awful lot of players for the second year in a row, and you've got to get them up to speed pretty quickly. But the mentalness is a real concern for me. This inability to rectify things, to calm down on the pitch, for people to take charge of situations and guide the rest of the players through it is a real concern.
A real concern indeed. And a big game on Saturday. It's Saturday lunchtime, which leaves us a lovely run up to the live show at Portman Road on Saturday evening. And you can get questions into the panel in person, or you can ask a real expert, James Scowcroft, what he feels about it. There's only a few tickets left. Just click the link in the description if you want to get tickets. And if you're a top tier or Telegram member, you'll get 50% off. How many tickets are there left, Rich? Any idea?
About 15. I haven't checked whether we've had a load of people request refunds tonight, though. But yeah, please
if
don't
anyone
leave
wants
it.
to give up their QPR tickets now, I'd be interested.
This is turned to Money Supermarket or whatever. Yeah, just a polite request. If you've got a sense of foreboding about Saturday, please release your tickets back so that we can sell them to other people, because we are really marginal on space. So we're looking forward to having hopefully a positive conversation with everyone, but just to be a bit communal. When we've got the guys from Fan Sport and Food Banks there, Call Me Ted, Glory Days Artwork, we've got a competition and all sorts, and as Mikey mentioned, Scully giving his view and taking us back through some glory years too. So plenty going on there, hopefully enough to entice you win, lose or draw on Saturday. And we're really excited for it.
And you two will be back with the pre-match show ahead of that game live at 8:00 on Thursday night. And then the weekend preview with Henry and George will be on Top Tier on Friday. And then if you can't make the show on Saturday, even more important that you tune into the flagship show on Sunday. We're going to be making 7 changes to our lineup for that one as well, aren't we, Rich?
Yeah, we are. We're down to the bare bones a little bit, aren't we? And that offended a few of our FOD team as well when I used that phrase. So, yes, it'll be. I suspect one of Mikey or I. We haven't done the arm wrestle yet to decide who hosts on Sunday. But yeah, a little bit. Dave will be there. I think Dave. It will be me then. Fine, good, exciting. Me, Craig, and Dave. I think it will be. So come and join us on Sunday night.
they're not bare bones. What a fantastic squad we have.
I know.
DJW, will McKenna be given the whole season to build this team with pressure or to get up next season?
Ooh.
For me, he gets the season. For me, he's got enough credit in the bank, unless something disastrous happens, and we do a Luton and we're kind of in 18th position on New Year's Day or whatever. For me, I think he'll be given the season. But I referred to 2002, 2003 right at the start of this podcast, where we had an excellent squad for the league and we couldn't get going and we left ourselves too much to do. That would be my real concern. But yeah, he gets the season for me.
Yeah. Big thank you to David Bergin. Win, lose or draw, he's here in the chat. Maybe because it's the nature of tonight that he's given us very generous €20. Thank you, David, for your continued support of the podcast. And yeah, hopefully we'll get to see you at a game at some point over the next few months. And let's hope that game is better than the one that you missed tonight. Chris wants to know, does Palmer come out quicker and save the first one?
I'm the opposite end of the ground, so I can't tell you. It looked like the damage was done by a shade backing off.
Yeah, and the header as well, Rich. You don't head it back into that area.
It's like that moment. Of course,
ironically, it's that probably the area that he heads it into is where your Matasiwa or your Sam Morsey lands on the ball, and neither of them were there tonight for different reasons. Is Wolfie right about what he said about who plays? Asked Michael.
We got to be really careful, haven't we, that we don't just doom spiral. Like, obviously, Wolfie wanted to play more football and maybe felt like his chances were unfairly limited, and that's a personal thing. When we've debated, haven't we, Mikey, your kind of point about what is the strongest 11 and how do you kind of deal with, or how do you avoid making 6 or 7 changes for your midweek games and all that kind of stuff. I think we just need to be like, let's tread carefully like McKenna did and try and be respectful of it. I guess we don't know the ins and outs of it, so we can't speculate, but I guess questions like that, and it's it's a fair question that Michael's asking, but this is the trouble when it all goes wrong. These are the kind of questions that now come out. So yeah, I guess I'm doing a politician's answer, so I'll just shut up.
Yeah, I think it was Wolfenden's birthday today, wasn't it? So,
Alan Partridge shrug.
I believe
It was. Did he play for
I...
Coventry tonight, Mikey? Or am I?
He did. Yeah, he started.
Tonight. Yeah, he started.
Yeah.
And did they win?
Yes, they are top of the league with 25 points. They are 12 points ahead of us.
A very happy birthday to Luke Wolfenden.
Yeah. Needless to say, he had the last laugh in October.
He's having the laugh at the moment. There's a lot of debate about Kieran McKenna now appearing in the chat. Is that just because of the feeling of losing that game, or are there legitimate concerns, Seb? Because you don't become a bad manager overnight, but you can, even the best managers can reach a point where something isn't working. When do you think the owners might look to make a change?
Only if we were in a
I'm not saying... sorry, the way I phrase that...
Yeah, so Mikey wants Kieran McKenna out, everybody. He just
heard
it live on the podcast.
When might they decide? Is it based on results? Like if this carries on and we're
well, the calendar year's been a shocker. Let's be honest. Let's call it what it is.
Well, it's been a crap 18 months, isn't it? Let's be honest. We've won. What have we won now at home? We Huddersfield, and obviously at the right end of the promotion season, and then one game last season, and then Sheffield United, Norwich, and Portsmouth so far this season. So 4 games out of the last 40 odd, is it? Maybe not that high. I'm not sure, but yeah, it's an awful run of form for 18 months now. But I guess it will depend on what the internal discussions were in the summer. Maybe I think we all presumed that top 2 was an absolute necessity to get back to the Premier League as soon as possible, because we really messed this up 22 years ago. And given the wealth on offer now at the top table, it's incredibly crucial to get back as soon as you possibly can. Maybe those things would change slightly given the amount of business we did over the summer, and there's more of a longer term plan. But I'd be shocked if any senior executive at the club was not considering an instant return to be the goal this season, as McKenna will, as the players will, as the fans will. That has to be the overriding aim. And, you know, we are now owned by a very different kind of outfit to the Marcus Evans era. These people come from a world of venture capitalism. They will want returns, all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I don't think we saw with Paul Cook, they didn't dilly-dally when things weren't going well, but I think we are a million miles away from that at the moment. If it gets to Christmas time and let's say we are 20 points off the top two and the playoffs are disappearing out of sight and we're having these kind of conversations, then maybe the rumours and everything, etc., might start to build. But yeah, I said a minute ago he gets the season, and I think that's probably the case because, you know, we are building the McKenna 2.0 team with a very short transfer window, and it's important that he's given the chance to develop that and see how we get on. So yeah, I don't see any imminent changes. I would be shocked if he were to be sacked this season, personally.
We need to have longer memories, folks, as well, because McKenna didn't hit I know, you know, it's some good early results, but there were some moments in that first League One season or first half of League One season where, you know, he needed to figure stuff out and sussed it out. We didn't click immediately. When it did, you know, and I think that's what I guess a lot of us McKenna apologists are hoping for, is that there will be that clicking. But the trouble is we're now doing that at a level up in the Championship where you don't get the respect from the opposition. You don't, you know, we Seb and I were talking about Charlton being in a low block. They weren't really in a low block tonight. Just let us have the ball, knowing that we weren't going to do anything with it. And then we're just brutal in their efficiency in attacking us. And so it's a different beast trying to figure stuff out at tier 2 level. The self-proclaimed most difficult league in the world kind of thing, or not in the world, but you know what I mean? Like the Championship's a really horrible division. And we kind of forget that, yeah, it took a little bit of time for stuff to happen. But the trouble is, yeah, as Seb said, the atmosphere around the club is very different to what it was when McKenna came in. You know, he was the main man. And I guess what we all kind of hope and, yeah, pray is that we don't become a Nottingham Forest or a West Ham or a, you know, changing the manager every year is not the, you know, Norwich, dare I say it, as well. So, you know, I know it's not right tonight. I know we're very upset and hurting after that one, but yeah, I just don't see how changing the manager really changes anything. And give me a name to replace him. Like, who's coming in? Who's better than Kieran McKenna? Who knows these players better than he? Just got to be a little bit more self-reflective and a bit more humble about where we find ourselves.
Russell Martin's available though, Rich.
Perfect. Yeah, love it. He'll sort our plan out from the back.
I'll give the last question to very Finnish problems. There's a joke to be made there about our finishing problems.
Hey.
Would you take Morsey back in January if possible, Seb?
I said 4 weeks ago, whenever it was, that we'd probably moved on as a club and signed better quality central midfielders. But yeah, it might just be the emotional me talking after a 3-0 defeat where I've seen a real lack of leadership, a real lack of urgency, and a real lack of anybody driving standards on the pitch. The Seb that's sitting here right now would definitely bring him back to simply galvanise that dressing room, and more so for the off-field stuff maybe than him being on the pitch. But a more rational me tomorrow might well think, well, hang on a minute, you're going to have to bump somebody from the squad and you've got all these other players. So at the moment, yes, because if we get to January and we're still seeing the quietness on the pitch, the lack of leadership, the lack of desire and intensity, then there'll be a huge clamour for him to return and bring back the intangibles that we seem sorely missing so far this season.
And what an indictment of our new leadership group if you have to do that. Like, no disrespect to Morsey, because he's a great leader, but wow, like how shit must we be, like, in terms of not having the right characters, the right behaviours, if that's what we need to do. And, you know, Morsey could do a job on the pitch, of course he would, but blimey, we must do better at finding the new Morsey, like both in terms of playing stature, but also leadership. And look, we need to suss out who's going to be the leader on the pitch, because there weren't any tonight. And that's a big part of the story tonight, I think. You know, Seb made the point, just people went missing. And it was same with Borough. You know, when the chips are down at the moment, we go into our shells, and that needs to change. And I guess it comes with confidence of winning matches, but it also comes, as I keep saying, I'm going to say it for the fifth time, a few home truths, a bit hard love, a bit of tough love tonight needed. Go again, etc., etc. Trust the process. How many more cliches do you want me to chuck at you, Mikey?
We've put this one to
As
bed.
We peak at 1,800 viewers, simultaneous viewers, by the way. Thank you, everyone, for joining in. Blimey, it's like Barnsley away, but the complete opposite.
Yeah, thank you, everyone, for helping to drive the conversation tonight. The good news is we've got another game on Saturday. You're still thinking about the bad news, aren't you? Good night.